That night, right in front of the relatives, my parents raised their glasses and laughed. "She does this trash online thing, when will she get a real job?" I smiled and said, "Fine, let me show everyone what a real job looks like." The next morning, an anonymous message dropped into my inbox. "They're discussing with your aunt and uncle about cutting you from the estate if you don't grow up." 6 months later, at the town's biggest fundraiser, my own parents asked with trembling voices, may we use your brand?" And I placed the contract on the table. My name is Rachel Whitford Ray to anyone who actually knows me, and I was 31 years old the night my parents decided to publicly humiliate me at Aunt Joanne Kettering's 65th birthday dinner. The West Vale clubhouse gleamed with old money pretension crystal chandeliers casting shadows over mahogany panels, waiters in pressed whites gliding between tables laden with Waterford crystal and sterling silver. I sat at the family table, my fingers tracing the stem of my Sauvignon Blanc, watching my father Mitchell straighten his Hermes tie before launching into his favorite topic. "Rachel here," he began, his voice carrying that particular boom reserved for public performances. "Still playing around with her little internet thing." He turned to Uncle Richard, who managed the family's portfolio at Harborline Credit Union. "We keep telling her this isn't a career, it's a phase. Like when she wanted to be a photographer in college." My mother Carol touched her pearls always. The pearls when she was about to twist the knife. "We've tried being patient, but at some point, one has to face reality. Real work happens in offices, with benefits packages and retirement plans. Not whatever it is she does on her laptop at coffee shops." The laughter rippled around the table. Cousin Gavin, fresh from his promotion at Morgan Stanley, smirked into his bourbon. Aunt Joanne, the birthday queen herself, patted my hand with condescending sympathy. "Dear, your parents just want what's best. The Whitford name means something in Ridgeview. It stands for substance, tradition, real accomplishment." I felt the glass trembling slightly in my hand. 3 years I'd been building my brand strategy consultancy, helping startups find their voice, crafting campaigns that moved metrics. Last month alone, I'd invoiced more than my father's quarterly bonus. But none of that mattered here, in this room where success was measured in corner offices and company cars. "Perhaps," Mitchell continued, now fully warmed to his audience, "it's time we discussed the Family Education Trust. Resources should go where they'll be properly utilized." He exchanged a meaningful glance with Joanne. "The younger generation, the ones with real careers, could benefit." The waiter appeared with the check, $847 for the table. I watched my parents lean back, that practiced pause that meant someone else would handle it. Without a word, I slipped my business credit card, the one with Velvet Atlas LLC embossed in raised letters, to the waiter. The irony wasn't lost on me, the woman with the fake job paying for the real professional's dinner. Later, in the parking lot, while my parents held court by their Lexus, Cousin Gavin sidled up to me, bourbon heavy on his breath. "Hey, Ray, thought you should know, overheard them with Joanne earlier. They're serious about the trust thing, talking about redirecting your portion to Gavin Jr.'s prep school fund. Something about how you're not showing fiscal responsibility with all this online nonsense." He walked away, leaving me standing under the amber parking lot lights, my phone heavy in my pocket. I pulled it out and opened my notes app. At the top, I typed, "Evidence log, family dinner, January 15th, 8:43 p.m." Below, I began listing everything: the words, the sneers, the check amount, the witnesses. They wanted to see fiscal responsibility. They wanted real work. I sat in my car, engine off, watching them through the windshield. My mother threw her head back, laughing at something Mitchell said. They looked so certain, so secure in their small kingdom of traditional success. Opening my laptop right there in the driver's seat, I pulled up my business accounts. Velvet Atlas was more than ready. The infrastructure was there, the LLC, the trademark applications pending, the supplier relationships. What I'd built in shadows would soon demand the spotlight. I took one last photo through the windshield my parents framed by the clubhouse's glowing windows, their silhouettes sharp against all that inherited light. Evidence. Everything from now on would be evidence. The drive home took me through downtown Brookhaven, where my actual life lived, where entrepreneurs worked until 2 a.m. In converted warehouses, where success was measured in disruption, not tradition, where nobody cared about your last name, only your last launch. They wanted to cut me out. Fine. I'd build something they'd have to beg to be part of. The anonymous text arrived at 6:17 a.m. while I was reviewing supplier invoices in my Brookhaven studio apartment. Unknown number, no caller ID, just a photo attachment that made my coffee go cold. It was a screenshot of a WhatsApp group labeled Family Board Private. The participants Mitchell Whitford, Carol Whitford, Joanne Kettering, Richard Kettering. The timestamp showed 11:43 p.m. last night, right after I'd left the clubhouse. Mitchell. The situation with Rachel is becoming a PR liability. How do we explain to the foundation board that a Whitford is peddling crafts online? Carol, I've tried reasoning with her. Maybe it's time for an intervention. Financial pressure might bring clarity. Joanne. The trust reallocation is straightforward. The bylaws allow for redistribution based on demonstrable career commitment. Her Instagram hobby hardly qualifies. Richard. I could make some calls at Harborline. If she needs employment, we have entry positions. Stable, respectable, benefits. Mitchell. She either joins the family business properly or we proceed with the reallocation. I won't have the Whitford name associated with this millennial nonsense anymore. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then another text came through. Thought you should see their true colors. Don't let them win. A friend. I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. Outside my window, Brookhaven was waking up food trucks setting up, the co-working space across the street already glowing with laptop screens. My world, the one they'd never bothered to understand. The pressure sat heavy in my chest, 31 years of being the good daughter, the one who showed up to every family event, who sent birthday cards, who played the game even while building something they couldn't see. The small-town good girl versus the city entrepreneur. They didn't want me to succeed my way. They wanted me dependent, controllable, branded with their version of success. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Operation Velvet Hammer. Inside, 2 documents. The first, business acceleration plan. The second, legal protection strategy. My phone buzzed. Nia Calder. My best friend since law school. She'd gone the traditional route they'd approve of, except she used her intellectual property expertise to protect creators, not corporations. Breakfast at Merchants. You sounded weird in your text. An hour later, we sat in our usual corner booth, my phone between us showing the screenshot. Nia studied it with her lawyer face, the one that made opposing counsel nervous in depositions. This is actually good, she said finally. They put it in writing. Conspiracy to commit financial coercion, possible defamation if they go public, definitely emotional distress. She pulled out her legal pad. But you don't want to sue them. I want to succeed so loudly they can't ignore it. Then we do this right. First, you incorporate properly, not just an LLC. Full operating agreement, trademark registration, the works. Make Velvet Atlas bulletproof. She started sketching a timeline. Second, documentation. Every interaction, every slight, every success. Third, allies. Already thinking about that? I showed her my phone. Owen Mercer. We met at the Park Ridge Women in Business Council last month. Former Amazon ops manager. Looking for something meaningful. Good. What's the play? I pulled out my iPad, showing her the mood boards I'd been working on since 3 a.m. Velvet Atlas becomes real, not just consulting a full lifestyle brand. Handcrafted candles, leather goods, planners. Everything they think is hobbycraft, but executed at a level that makes anthropology look amateur. Timeline. 6 months to launch. Start with the candle line Vine and Firelight collection. Local materials, sustainable packaging, premium positioning. Build the waitlist through micro-influencers, not ads. Make scarcity part of the brand story. Nia grinned. And when your parents realize their hobby daughter built something real, then we'll see who needs whom. That afternoon, I met Owen at the warehouse space I'd been eyeing in East Brookhaven. 2,000 square feet, exposed brick, perfect light. He walked through with a clipboard, already calculating workflow patterns. "You realize what you're proposing?" he asked. "Going from consulting to physical products, that's a massive leap. My parents think I play on the internet all day. Time to show them what playing can build." He studied me for a moment. "All right, I'm in. But we do this professionally. Real inventory management, proper fulfillment, legitimate business metrics they can't dismiss." That night, I sat in my apartment with the family board screenshot printed out, pinned to my vision board. Next to it, I pinned the lease agreement for the warehouse, Naya's legal timeline, Owen's operations plan. They wanted to cut me out. They'd just given me the fuel to burn brighter than they could imagine. The transformation happened in measured explosions. Week 1, 3 orders. Week 12, 150. By week 24, our wait list stretched past 10,000 names, and I hadn't slept more than 4 hours straight in months. The warehouse at East Brookhaven had evolved from empty brick shell to humming production center. Shelving units lined the walls, filled with amber glass vessels waiting for hand-poured soy wax. The leather station occupied the far corner, where 2 local artisans crafted journal covers that sold out within minutes of each drop. The fulfillment zone Owen designed could process 200 orders daily without breaking rhythm. "Ray, look at this," Owen called from his laptop station at 5:23 a.m. on a Tuesday. I walked over, coffee mug, leaving rings on the packing table. "Vine and Firelight Collection 28% return customer rate. Industry average is 12. The numbers glowed on his screen. Real metrics. Undeniable success. Everything my parents claimed didn't exist in online hobbies. My phone buzzed. Screenshot from cousin Lily, the family rebel studying journalism at Penn State. It was my mother's Facebook post, so disappointed to see family values eroding. Some people would rather chase internet fame than contribute meaningfully to their community. Mitchell and I tried our best, but you can't force wisdom on those who refuse to grow up. Grateful for our real professional friends who understand dedication and genuine work. 67 reactions, 23 comments of sympathy. Aunt Joanne's crying, laughing emoji standing out like a beacon of cruelty. I screenshotted it, added it to my evidence folder, and kept pouring candles. The Brookhaven Market Hall pop-up changed everything. Nia had negotiated a prime corner spot for the 3rd Saturday in March. We built the booth like a stage-set reclaimed wood. Edison bulbs, ceramic vessels displaying our signature scents. I wore the outfit deliberately crisp white shirt, tailored black pants, the leather apron we'd designed with our logo embossed subtly in the corner. The line started forming at 8 a.m., 2 hours before we opened. "Excuse me, are you Rachel?" A woman in her 50s. Her mess bag, the exact type my mother lunched with. "I've been on your wait list for 2 months. My daughter in San Francisco told me about Velvet Atlas. She says you're the only brand that gets the aesthetic." By noon, we'd sold through inventory I'd planned to last the weekend. Orders poured in faster than I could write them. The market photographer hired by the venue, not us, couldn't stop shooting our booth. "This is editorial gold," she kept saying. That's when I saw them, my parents, walking through the market with the Ketterings, probably heading to their usual overpriced brunch spot. They stopped dead when they saw the crowd around our booth. I watched my mother's face cycle through confusion, recognition, and something that looked like fear. Mitchell pulled out his phone, probably Googling Velvet Atlas for the first time. I knew what he'd find our website with its 6-figure annual revenue run rate displayed proudly. The testimonials from boutique owners, the wholesale inquiries from Northbridge & Co. They didn't approach. They stood at the edge of the crowd, watching me handle transactions, watching customers photograph themselves with products, watching their failure daughter command attention they'd never achieved. The Ridgeview Ledger piece dropped the next week. Tessa Ward had spent 3 days shadowing our operation. her photographer capturing me at 2 a.m., hand-stamping shipping boxes. The team gathered around our Monday morning metrics review, the walls covered with customer thank you notes. The headline, "Local Entrepreneur Builds Six-Figure Brand While Industry Giants Struggle." The opening paragraph, "In a converted warehouse in East Brookhaven, Rachel Whitford is quietly revolutionizing the direct-to-consumer landscape. Building a waitlist most luxury brands would kill for all while maintaining radical transparency about her journey from family skepticism to entrepreneurial success." My phone exploded. Text from Owen. "Northbridge wants to talk." "They're offering a six-figure opening order." Email from the Park Ridge Women in Business Council. "We'd like to feature you as our annual gala keynote speaker." LinkedIn notification. "Mitchell Whitford viewed your profile." But the one that mattered came that evening, via Lily again. Another family board screenshot. "Richard, have you seen the Ledger article? This is significant." Joanne, "It could be temporary. These online trends always are." Carol, "Maybe we should reconsider the trust situation." Mitchell, "Absolutely not. She made her choice. We stick to ours." I printed that one too. Added it to the folder that now contained 63 pieces of evidence, bank statements showing my revenue, screenshots of their public humiliation attempts, legal documentation of my legitimate business. "You know what's beautiful," Nia said that night, reviewing our trademark approval over wine in my apartment. "They think this is about the money." "They have no idea you're building something they'll have to beg to be part of." I raised my glass to the vision board, to the warehouse photos, to the life I'd built in spite of them. 6 months ago, they called it trash. Now they're Googling my success at 2 a.m. The wait list hit 15,000 that night. I knew because Mitchell's second LinkedIn profile view came at 2:37 a.m., right after the counter updated. The call from Marlowe and Field Foundation came on a Thursday at 11:15 a.m., right as I was reviewing our quarterly projections with Owen. The caller ID showed the main office line, the one my mother volunteered at twice a week. "Miss Whitford, this is Patricia Morse, Development Director. We'd like to discuss a potential partnership opportunity for our annual gala." I put her on speaker, catching Owen's raised eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Your mother, Carol, speaks so highly of your enterprise. She suggested Velvet Atlas might be interested in sponsoring our silent auction, perhaps donating some products." The lie was so transparent I almost laughed, my mother suggesting my business for anything I pulled up my laptop. Quick searching Patricia Morse. LinkedIn showed connections to all the right families, including a suspiciously recent connection to Carol Whitford added yesterday. "I'd be happy to discuss it. Should I coordinate directly with you?" "Oh, well, Carol volunteered to handle the logistics. She said you two work so well together." After ending the call, I immediately texted Naya. "They're trying something. Mom's plotting through the foundation." That evening, an anonymous Instagram account, 0 followers, created that day posted in the Ridgeview community group, "Anyone else order from Velvet Atlas and receive damaged goods, overpriced and overhyped. Save your money for real quality." Within an hour, 3 more anonymous accounts chimed in with similar complaints. The pattern was obvious: same writing style, same vague accusations, no photo evidence. Amateur hour. Owen had already anticipated this. "Remember the return protocol we set up?" I nodded, pulling up our customer service dashboard. Time to use it. We posted our response within 30 minutes. "We take all customer concerns seriously. Any customer experiencing issues can call our dedicated hotline, email our support team, or visit our warehouse for instant resolution. For the next 48 hours, any quality concern receives a full refund plus double credit toward future purchases. Your satisfaction isn't just guaranteed, it's our obsession." Then came the master stroke. Every return request, all 3 legitimate ones from our 10,000 orders, got the royal treatment. Hand-delivered replacements, personal apology notes, bonus products, and we documented everything. Real customers started flooding the comments. "I've ordered 12 times. Never a single issue." They literally hand-wrote me a thank you note when I mentioned it was a gift for my mom's funeral. This is fake. I know because when my candle arrived with a tiny crack, they sent 3 replacements and refunded me anyway. The anonymous accounts disappeared by morning, but the screenshots lived forever in my evidence folder. Tessa Ward called that afternoon. Interesting timing on those fake reviews. Right after your ledger profile. Want to comment. Off the record, document everything. On the record, Velvet Atlas stands behind every single product and customer. Our metrics speak louder than anonymous posts. She laughed. Your customer response was brilliant. I'm doing a follow-up piece on how small businesses handle online attacks. Mind if I feature your response as the gold standard? 2 days later, the Ridgeview Ledger ran a front-page business section story. Grace Under Fire: How Velvet Atlas Turned Fake Reviews into Customer Loyalty Masterclass. The article included a sidebar of our actual metrics: 0.03% return rate, 98% customer satisfaction score, 15,000 plus waitlist. It also mentioned, seemingly casually, that anonymous attack posts had become common against successful female-founded businesses. The Northbridge meeting happened that same week. Their head buyer, Marcus Chin. Sorry. Marcus Sterling sat across from Owen and me in their flagship store's conference room, our complete product line displayed on the mahogany table. This leather goods quality rivals Hermes, he said, running his fingers over a journal cover. The candle performance beats diptyque. Your price point is aggressive but justified. He looked up. We want exclusive retail rights for the tri-state area. Starting with a $100,000 opening order, scaling to $500,000 by year end. Owen kept his poker face, but I saw his hand tighten on his pen. We're interested, I said carefully. But exclusivity means we need guaranteed placement, marketing support, and creative control. Done. We'll also want you at our vendor showcase next month. Every major buyer on the East Coast attends. Walking out with a signed letter of intent. Owen finally broke. $500,000. Ray, that's validation. I finished. The kind that can't be faked or dismissed. That night, my phone rang. Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail. Rachel, darling. I heard about some unfortunate online reviews. You know, these internet businesses are so vulnerable. Maybe it's time to consider something more stable. Your father could still make some calls. The trust fund decision isn't final yet. Call me back. I saved the voicemail, adding it to my folder, now containing 112 pieces of evidence. The foundation trap, the fake reviews, the concerned mother act. Every move they made only strengthened my position. Lily texted at midnight. Family board going nuts about the Northbridge news. Aunt Joanne literally said, "This changes things. Your dad's pretending he knew all along." It's beautiful. I stood in our warehouse, surrounded by inventory worth more than my parents' annual salaries, staff schedules covering round-the-clock production, purchase orders that would make their country club friends dizzy. They wanted to break me with fake reviews and foundation schemes. The real revenge was just beginning. The breakthrough came through Lily's late-night espionage. She'd managed to record 17 minutes of the family board's Sunday dinner meeting using her phone hidden in her purse. The audio file landed in my inbox at 11:48 p. with a single line. You need to hear this. Mitchell's voice, wine-loose and confident. The problem isn't that Rachel's playing businesswoman. It's that she's using the Whitford name to do it. That's our reputation she's trading on. Joanne's cutting laugh. Can we legally prevent her from using her own name? Richard. Actually, yes. If the family trust has trademark claims on the Whitford name for business purposes. Carol. We could file first, protect the family legacy from dilution. Nia nearly spit out her coffee when I played it for her the next morning. They're actually considering trademark warfare against their own daughter. This is gold. Also, legally questionable and definitely actionable. I have a better idea, I said, pulling up my laptop. What if we make them irrelevant? The plan crystallized over the next 72 hours. Marlowe and Field Foundation's annual gala was 6 weeks away, the crown jewel of Ridgeview's social calendar. Every prominent family attended. Every business leader, every person whose opinion my parents valued. I called Patricia Morse directly. I'd like to propose something bigger than product donations. What if Velvet Atlas sponsored the keynote speaker segment? That's a $25,000 sponsorship level. I'm aware, but I have conditions. I choose the speaker theme, and I want it focused on entrepreneurship in the modern economy work that looks like love. Patricia paused. The board would need to approve. The board will approve because I'll also guarantee media coverage through my brand's network. Tessa Ward from The Ledger is already interested. We have features coming in 3 national magazines. This gala could get actual visibility beyond Ridgeview. 2 days later, approval came through. My mother hadn't been told yet Patricia wanted to announce it at the next volunteer meeting. I knew because Lily was there, texting me play-by-play. Mom's face just went white. Patricia announced Velvet Atlas as presenting sponsor for the keynote. Now she's trying to smile. Looks like she's having a stroke. Meanwhile, Owen and I prepared for the real bombshell. The keynote speaker committee, which I now controlled through the sponsorship, would naturally select someone who embodied entrepreneurial success. Someone local, someone with a story that resonated. You're nominating yourself, Owen said. Not a question. They can't refuse without losing the sponsorship, and if they lose the sponsorship this close to the gala, financial and social disaster? He grinned. Brutal. I love it. The committee meeting happened at the foundation's offices, a stuffy room full of old money and older ideas. I walked in wearing my best power suit, the one I'd bought with my first Northbridge payment, and watched my mother's jaw tighten from across the table. For the keynote, I began, distributing my prepared folders. I propose we feature a local success story. Someone who built a 6-figure business from nothing, who embodies the modern entrepreneurial spirit, who can inspire the next generation. Board member Harrison Whitley flipped through the folder. These metrics are impressive. Wait, Velvet Atlas. Isn't this my company? Yes. But if you check page 3, you'll see the media coverage we're bringing. Forbes Online, Fast Company, Entrepreneur Magazine. They're all interested in covering wherever I speak next. The room went silent. My mother's knuckles were white around her pen. Harrison cleared his throat. The exposure would be unprecedented for the foundation. I should note, I added casually, if the board prefers a different speaker, Velvet Atlas would need to reconsider our sponsorship. We have other opportunities. The Brookhaven Innovation Summit has been courting us. It was checkmate, and everyone knew it. Pull the sponsorship now, and the gala budget would implode. Accept, and they'd have to watch me triumph on their stage. The vote was unanimous, my mother abstaining with a strangled conflict of interest excuse. That night, I stood in my warehouse with Nia and Owen, drafting the keynote. But it wasn't just a speech, it was an exhibition. We would create Rooms We Survived, an immersive scent experience. Each candle would represent a different space where dreams got crushed or built. The conference room where they said no. The warehouse at 3A, where we said yes. The family dining room where love came with conditions. You're not just giving a speech, Nia said, reviewing the plan. You're creating an art installation that happens to destroy them. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. We need to talk about the gala. This has gone far enough. I screenshotted it, added it to my evidence folder now at 157 items, and responded, looking forward to seeing you there. The irony was perfect. They'd tried to cut me out of the family trust for not having a real career. Now their entire social circle would watch that same career save their precious gala. Owen pulled up our latest numbers. With the Northbridge orders and holiday projections, we'll hit $700,000 in revenue by the gala. $700,000, more than my father made in 2 years, built from what they called trash. The Marlowe and Field Gala arrived wrapped in spring rain and social tension. The Ridgeview Country Club had been transformed crystal chandeliers, white orchids, and my parents at the head table. Frozen smiles plastered across their faces as guests kept mentioning the Velvet Atlas sponsorship banners. I stood backstage at 7:45 p. Saw watching through the curtain gap as Mitchell took the podium for his traditional opening remarks as board president. His voice carried that familiar pompous tone. Tonight, we celebrate real value, real work, the kind of contribution that builds communities, not just bank accounts. Carol nodded along in her St. John suit, diamonds catching the light. They'd positioned themselves perfectly close enough to the podium to seem involved, far enough to distance themselves if needed. 30 minutes to keynote, Owen whispered, adjusting the final scent station. We'd transformed the side of the ballroom into Rooms We Survived 5 installations, each with a different velvet atlas candle, each telling a piece of the story. The dinner service ended. Patricia Morse approached the microphone, her voice bright with anticipation. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's keynote segment, Work That Looks Like Love, is sponsored by Velvet Atlas, one of the region's most remarkable business success stories. Please welcome our speaker, Rachel Whitford. The applause started strong, then stuttered as people connected the names. Whitford, the board president's daughter, the one they'd whispered about at holiday parties. I walked to the podium in deliberate silence, letting them process. The lights dimmed except for a single spot on me and soft illumination on the scent installations. 3 years ago, I began, my voice steady and clear. Someone told me that what I did wasn't real work, that success only counted if it came with a corner office and someone else's approval. Tonight, I want to share what I learned about work that doesn't look like work until it does. Click. The first slide, a photo Lily had secretly taken at that birthday dinner, my parents laughing while I sat alone at the end of the table. I didn't name them, but the Ridgeview crowd knew. Station 1. I gestured to the first installation. Dinner table sage, the scent of family gatherings where your choices become entertainment, where the wine flows easier than support. The room had gone completely silent. My mother's hand crept toward her pearls. I documented every dismissal, I continued, clicking through slides of screenshots carefully anonymized but recognizable to anyone who knew our family. Every joke about playing online, every suggestion that I find real work, I used them as fuel. Click. The warehouse at 3A, Mem. Owen packing orders, me hand-pouring wax. Station 2 warehouse coffee, the smell of actual work, the kind that starts before dawn and ends after midnight, the kind that builds something from nothing. Tessa Ward was in the 3rd row, typing furiously on her phone. The Forbes reporter beside her had her recorder raised high. 6 months ago, this company some called a hobby was processing 3 orders a week. Click. Our current dashboard, numbers blazing across the screen. Today, we ship 200 daily, employ 12 people full-time, and have purchase orders exceeding $500,000. Gasps rippled through the room. Aunt Joanne's face had gone pale. Uncle Richard was doing math on his phone, probably calculating how much of the trust fund they'd tried to steal from me. Station 3, leather and ambition, the scent of products that sell out in minutes, of craftsmanship that commands prices my critics said no one would pay. Click. Screenshots of our customer reviews, the waitlist counter at 22,000, the Northbridge contract signature page with the dollar amount clearly visible. But here's what I learned, I said, moving toward the climax. The people who mock your dreams the loudest are often the ones who gave up on their own. They need you to fail to justify their choices. Your success becomes their mirror, and they hate what they see. My father's face had turned purple. Carol was whispering urgently to Patricia Morse, probably trying to find a way to cut the presentation short. But Patricia was mesmerized, like everyone else. Station 4. Success vetiver. It smells like validation, like contracts signed, like the moment your biggest critic realizes they were wrong. Click. The final slide, a photo from last week. My business bank account statement, strategically cropped, but showing a balance that exceeded my parents' joint savings. Below it, a single line, real work creates real value. And finally, Station 5, future oak, the scent of what's coming, because success isn't revenge, it's revelation. It reveals who believed in you, who doubted you, and who'll claim they knew all along. I paused, making eye contact with my parents for the first time all evening. Velvet Atlas will be opening our flagship store next month in downtown Brookhaven. We're hiring 20 more people. We're launching nationally. And we're doing it all without a single corner office or anyone else's permission. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, someone started clapping Harrison Whitley. Others joined. The applause built into thunder. Half the room was on their feet. The reporters were shooting photos. My parents sat frozen, trapped between their head table position and the standing ovation for their failure daughter. Thank you to the Marlowe and Field Foundation, I concluded, for letting someone who does fake work sponsor your very real gala. I walked off stage as the lights came up, leaving 500 of Ridgeview's finest to process what they'd witnessed. The family that had tried to destroy me had just watched their daughter become untouchable. Patricia Morse intercepted me backstage, her face flushed. That was incredible. The board wants to discuss a permanent partnership. Behind her, I saw my parents approaching, their faces unreadable masks. The real conversation was about to begin. The backstage room at the Ridgeview Country Club had never felt smaller. My parents stood in the doorway, their formal wear somehow wrinkled despite the expensive fabric. Behind them, Patricia Morse hovered nervously, clipboard clutched to her chest. "We need to speak with our daughter," Mitchell said, his voice missing its usual commanding tone. Privately, Patricia looked at me for permission. I nodded, and she scurried away, probably to handle the chaos in the ballroom where donors were buzzing about the presentation. Carol closed the door with shaking hands. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother without her armor, no perfect posture, no practiced smile. Just a woman who'd watched her carefully constructed narrative collapse in front of everyone who mattered to her. "The foundation is in crisis," Mitchell started, loosening his bow tie. "3 major donors just pulled their pledges. They say the organization feels out of touch, outdated." I leaned against the makeup counter, saying nothing. "But Harrison Whitley and the younger board members," Carol's voice cracked slightly. "They want to modernize. They're insisting on Velvet Atlas as the presenting sponsor for the entire gala season. All 5 events." And I kept my voice neutral, professional, the same tone I used with difficult clients. Mitchell's hands clenched and unclenched. "The board made it contingent. If Velvet Atlas withdraws, they'll clean house, new leadership, complete restructuring." There it was. After decades of running Ridgeview's most prestigious foundation, my parents were one decision away from social irrelevance. "Rachel," Carol stepped forward, and I saw mascara had smudged under her left eye. We need your help." The words hung between us like a physical presence. My mother, who'd called my work playing online. My father, who'd tried to steal my inheritance for not having a real job. They needed me. "You tried to destroy my reputation," I said quietly. "You conspired to cut me from the family trust. You planted fake reviews. You called my life's work trash in front of everyone we know. We were trying to protect you," Mitchell attempted, but even he couldn't sell the lie. "No, you were trying to control me." I pulled out my phone, showing them the folder icon labeled Evidence. 173 items, screenshots, recordings, documentation of everything you've done. "Nia says it's enough for a defamation suit that would end you." Carol's hand went to her throat. "You wouldn't. I wouldn't need to. The court of public opinion already watched you lose tonight." I straightened, moving toward my briefcase. "But I'm willing to discuss terms." "Terms!" Mitchell's voice cracked on the word. I pulled out the contract Nia had helped me draft 3 hours ago, when we'd anticipated this moment. "Velvet Atlas will maintain the foundation sponsorship, but with conditions." They watched as I laid the papers on the makeup counter. Each page a calculated strike. First, a public statement. You'll both issue a formal apology for undervaluing creative entrepreneurship and digital businesses. The apology will be published in the Ridgeview Ledger, posted on your social media, and printed in every gala program for the next year. Carol's face went white. Everyone would see. Everyone already saw tonight. This just makes it official. I flipped to the second page. Second, the family trust. My portion is restored immediately, plus the interest it would have accrued. Additionally, you'll create a new fund, the Whitford Innovation Grant, specifically for young entrepreneurs in non-traditional fields. That's millions. Mitchell started. That's justice. Third, I continued, not letting him finish. Velvet Atlas gets final approval on all foundation messaging about our partnership. You don't speak about my company without my permission. This is extortion. He spat, but his conviction was crumbling. This is business. The real kind. The kind with contracts and consequences. I pulled out my pen, setting it beside the papers. You have 5 minutes to decide. If you don't sign, I walk. The foundation loses Velvet Atlas. You lose your positions. And I release everything to Tessa Ward, who's waiting in the parking lot. You planned this, Carol whispered, a strange mix of horror and almost admiration in her voice. I learned from the best. You taught me that family is conditional, that love has a price tag, that reputation matters more than truth. So I'm playing by your rules now. They looked at each other, 35 years of marriage condensing into a single shared moment of defeat. Mitchell picked up the pen first, his signature scratchy and reluctant. Carol followed, her hand trembling so badly she had to try twice. One more thing, I said as they finished. The keynote slot at every foundation event this year. Mine. You'll sit in the front row and applaud. You'll smile for the photographers. You'll play the proud parents you never were. Why? Carol's voice was barely a whisper. Why make us perform? Because for once, you'll have to pretend I'm worth something. And maybe if you pretend long enough, you'll actually believe it. I took the signed contracts, placing them carefully in my briefcase. The first press release goes out tomorrow at 9 a.m. Naya will send you the approved text tonight. As I reached the door, Mitchell called out, Rachel, was any of it ever about the money? I turned back one last time. No. It was about proving that what you called worthless had value. What you called fake was real. What you tried to kill would thrive. I opened the door. The money was just keeping score. The hallway was full of guests pretending not to eavesdrop. I walked through them, head high, toward the parking lot where Tessa Ward was indeed waiting, recorder in hand. Behind me, in that small backstage room, sat two people who'd just signed away their authority over the daughter they'd tried to diminish. The contract was more than legal terms. It was my Independence Day. The new banner unfurled across the country club's entrance at exactly 8 p.m. Velvet Atlas Women Builders Night. The burgundy fabric caught the spotlight, our logo gleaming gold against the night. Below it, smaller text that everyone would photograph. Building dreams beyond traditional boundaries. I stood in the wings, watching the transformation we'd orchestrated in 48 hours. Every table now featured our signature candles. The programs, thick, elegant, impossible to ignore, had the apology printed on page 2, right after the welcome message. My parents' words in permanent ink. We deeply apologize for our failure to recognize that success takes many forms, and that modern entrepreneurship deserves the same respect as traditional careers. Patricia Morse grabbed the microphone, her voice carrying new energy. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue tonight's celebration, I'd like to read a special announcement from our board leadership. The spotlight found my parents at their designated table front row. Center, exactly where I'd specified. Mitchell wore his discomfort like an ill-fitted suit. Carol's smile looked painted on, but she maintained it as 3 photographers circled their table. This year, Patricia continued, the Whitford family has committed to establishing the Whitford Innovation Grant, a $2 million fund supporting non-traditional entrepreneurs in our community. Applause rippled through the room. I watched my father's jaw tighten as people congratulated him on his vision and forward thinking. He had to smile, had to accept the praise for something I'd forced him to do. Harrison Whitley stood up, raising his champagne. To the Whitfords, for recognizing that the future requires new thinking. To the Whitfords, 500 voices echoed. The irony was delicious. They were toasting my parents for the very thing they'd fought against, celebrating them for values I'd had to contractually mandate. Owen appeared beside me with a tablet. Final numbers just came in. The foundation website crashed from traffic. 17 national outlets picked up the story. Velvet Atlas got 43,000 new email subscribers in the last 2 hours. On stage, Patricia was introducing the scholarship recipients, 5 young women, all building businesses in digital spaces, creative fields, the exact areas my parents had deemed worthless. Each would receive $50,000 from the fund my parents were forced to create. And now, Patricia announced, please welcome our permanent keynote partner and sponsor, Rachel Whitford of Velvet Atlas. I walked onto the stage, passing my parents' table. Carol reached out slightly, maybe to touch my hand, maybe to stop me, but I kept moving. The spotlight was warm, familiar now. This was my arena. 6 months ago, I began, letting my voice fill the room. Someone told me that dignity comes from traditional success, that respect is earned in offices, not online, that real work follows patterns set by previous generations. I paused, making eye contact with Mitchell. They were wrong. I clicked the remote. The screen showed our flagship store rendering, set to open next month on Brookhaven's Main Street. Velvet Atlas will employ 35 people by summer. We'll generate over $2 million in revenue this year. We'll do it without a single traditional resume, without one conventional path. The presentation continued, but I wasn't watching the slides anymore. I was watching my parents, how they had to applaud every announcement, how they had to smile when board members leaned over to congratulate them on raising such an innovative daughter, how they had to perform pride they'd never felt. Tonight marks a new chapter, I concluded, one where work is measured by impact, not tradition, where success is defined by creation, not convention, where every dream deserves a chance, even if it doesn't look like what came before. The standing ovation was immediate and genuine, but I only cared about 2 people in that crowd. Mitchell and Carol stood because they had to, clapped because the contracts demanded it, smiled because photographers were watching. As I left the stage, Lily intercepted me with her phone. "Look at this," she giggled, showing me the family board chat. "Joanne, did Mitchell really agree to all this, Richard, $2 million for a fund? Have they lost their minds?" Carol had responded, "It was the right thing to do." 3 words that meant nothing and everything. She'd typed them while sitting 10 feet from me, performing her mandated support. The evening wound down with controlled precision. Every interaction documented, every forced smile captured. My parents stood in reception lines, accepting congratulations for their progressive vision while I watched from across the room, contract secure in my safe, evidence backed up in 3 locations. At 11:30 p.m., as the last guests filtered out, I found myself alone in the parking lot where this had all started months ago. The same amber lights, the same expensive cars, but everything had changed. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother, "You won." I typed back, "No, I just stopped letting you lose for me." The Velvet Atlas delivery van pulled up Owen driving, Nia in the passenger seat, champagne already popped in the back. As we drove away from the country club, I looked back once at the banner still glowing against the building, my name, my company, my terms, written large enough that everyone in Ridgeview would see. They'd wanted me to have a real job, a traditional path, a respectable life. Instead, I'd built something they had to respect whether they wanted to or not. The revenge wasn't in destroying them. It was in succeeding so completely that they had to sign contracts admitting they were wrong. It was in turning their weapon public opinion against them. It was in making them perform the pride they'd never felt until everyone believed it except them. The banner would come down tomorrow, but the contracts were forever. The grants would fund dreams they'd tried to crush. The apologies would live in print. in digital archives, in the memory of everyone who'd witnessed their fall and my rise. I'd entered that gala as their disappointment. I'd left as their mandatory pride. The frame closed on their signatures, binding them to support everything they'd tried to destroy. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to hear what you think about Rachel's journey.